You're listening to The Art of Business with Jake Lee and Brian Aersel.
We're doing it!
Yes, we're doing it!
We're doing it.
It's our first podcast.
Show's happening.
This
is like my 30th.
Yeah, so, you've had experience in podcasting. I have no experience.
Yeah.
What was your first podcast?
It was the Idiot Lab. With Brian and Jay. We were super big in Slovakia.
Really?
They loved us in Slovakia.
It's like, that reminds me of, have you ever seen that movie Singles?
No.
No, it's...
Only parts. Only parts on VH1 back in the day.
Oh, well, there's a snippet of Matt Dillon and the members of Pearl Jam sitting around, and they're telling all the bad review they got.
Yeah.
And he says, but we're still good in Sweden. They love us. Our album's rocking there. So I'm glad that Slovakia...
I think it was like a 6-to-1 ratio. Like every listener we had in the States, we had 6 in Slovakia.
That's awesome.
I don't know what we did to appeal to Slovakia. It was probably bots that were downloading it.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, but it was pretty cool, man.
Yeah. So, and what was that mostly about?
We would kind of just cover like news topics.
Yeah.
Jay would come to me with these like really weird news pieces, and then we would just talk about them. That's kind of it. And then we would get into like serious discussions about
I remember when we
sobriety and sexuality and stuff. Like he'd be like, okay, this chick stole all this money and then killed herself, and I'm like, cool, but what about dicks? And then we just talk about dicks for an hour. That's pretty much it.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is a little bit different podcast.
A little bit.
So
there's still gonna be dicks though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there'll be dick jokes.
That's where you make the money.
Yeah.
And by the money, I mean how I pay money to someone to host this thing.
So like, how long ago, did we kind of talk about this? Like 2 months ago?
Yeah.
About 2 months ago. So
yeah, and even before that, you were kicking it around as like a YouTube thing,
video cast. Yeah. Or some kind of live Twitch broadcast or something.
Yeah. Which could still happen.
But we have a lot of things that we have in common. And that's why I think I can have a discussion with you for more than 2 hours.
Yeah, it also helps that I know all this shit too.
Yes. And you have the equipment.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of podcasts. I listen to at least one a day of all sorts. And there's not really that many for artists or anything about art. There's generalization ones, but not really ones I enjoy. It's like...
There's not really like... I don't know, would you say broad topic?
Yeah.
Because we want to get into like...
This is the business of art.
Finance, social media, marketing, all that stuff.
Yeah. It's someone who's interested in taking their art career to the next level, and also kind of informing them the pros and cons of everything, and really telling them the truth through our experiences, and then down the road, future interview experiences.
Yeah, you learn from mistakes, and we've made a ton.
Yeah, and we discussed this recently. Learning from your mistake is probably the best way, for me at least.
It seems like after every convention, art fair, any kind of gig that you book, you and I sit down and we're like, well, why did it really suck?
Yeah. Or it's like,
or why was it great?
Yeah, like how did this become so successful, or how did this bomb? Like what did I do wrong? What could I have done better?
Yeah.
So we'll be discussing that stuff. I feel like there's some podcasts out there that are a little bit for artists, but it's like the best way to say it is like the arts and crafts style, and that's just not our thing.
There's that, and I've come across some that are like design specific.
I actually listen to some of those. I like those, but
they're good. But they only work if you've got your computer in front of you, and you're like looking at the stuff that they're telling you about, because it's an oral medium.
It's graphic design. It's something.
It's hard to
through a software.
It's hard to hear about design without seeing it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really kind of click as a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah,
this is kind of like the behind the veil stuff that nobody really talks about.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Unless you're talking to other artists.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, a lot of artists do talk to each other, and we'll be, just for future reference, we've got a good handful of people who are willing to be interviewed, so we're really excited for future episodes. But like at the same time, it's like we really want to tell the listener like, this is how it is. Like, it's not always sprinkles and rainbows.
No, sometimes it's barely breaking even.
Yeah, and we want to tell you that. And I can say this, and I'm okay saying this. Like, there's times where I didn't break even on certain things, you know?
Yeah.
And does it affect my morale? Oh, yeah. Is
100%.
Am I, like, do I question things? 100, yes. Most definitely. Do I almost have, like, a feeling of regretting and wanting to quit? Yeah. But then, like, the next day, you just gotta pick yourself up and do it. So I think this is going to be a kind of a cool podcast for artists. Be a lot more visual, but we're going to definitely get people in that do independent films and all sorts of different medias of art.
Yeah. Even like culinary, maybe furniture.
Yes. We got a photographer.
Everything. Yeah. Everything you can think of.
So that is it. This is the art of business.
Yeah.
And I'm Jake Lee.
Brian Aerosol.
So you might be sitting here and just be like, you know, I clicked on this fucking podcast and who are these two dipshits?
Well, I would think episode 1, they probably... we're not... Well, they know who we are because the only people that are listening are people we know.
Yeah, but sooner or later...
But they're probably also thinking, like, why are these dipshits that we know doing a podcast?
Yeah, that's true. Why are we doing it? Yeah, I just want that podcast to be... I want it to be something I would want to listen to and be really excited every 2 weeks. And,
yeah. Which also is our release schedule. Every 2 weeks is what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
However, it is... I mean, throughout the art community, despite people making things, every artist is a procrastinator.
Yes.
Yes. So we're shooting for every 2 weeks. We'll see.
So like,
we'll see if it works that way.
I mean... I'm gonna throw the questions to you, my man.
Yeah.
Who are you, Brian Aerosol? When did you start making art?
Oh man, that's a... You want me to get into the nitty gritty dirt of it all?
Do you want to?
Yeah, I've done it on the other podcast. Sure. So I started I guess the medium would be stencils and spray paint.
Mm-hmm.
And
aerosol.
Yeah, aerosol. Apparently, there's an English, British dude named Aerosol.
Oh. We gotta go after him.
I don't think it'll be a problem because I've been doing this long and he's never said anything.
If there is a problem, we'll take care of him.
We'll cut him down.
Yeah.
We'll throw him into a river, just like the colonials did.
Jesus. Evidence.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I started doing this like, where would I be now? 5 years ago. I started with a friend, which is why the initial. I don't know, what would you call
project.
It? Company group was called the Aerosol Project.
It's almost like a co-op, not co-op, but like a co-group.
Yeah. So
Artist group.
It was me and another friend that we were both doing stencils and spray paint, and it started out right around the time I'd stopped drinking, so I had to keep my hands busy at all times.
Was art kind of like at that point like therapy or some kind of like just keep moving, keep doing something, so I don't think about...
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah.
It still is.
And I gotta ask, how many years?
I just hit 6 years on the 16th of June.
That's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, 6 years. So I can mark it by being a year sober, and that's when I was like, I gotta find a hobby or something, because I think before I was just like driving all the time, just to stay busy.
You still do that?
Oh, I do that, yeah.
You still do that?
Yeah. Well, I'm not good at jogging, so, driving works better.
Yeah.
But I started with a friend. He's not doing it anymore. He kind of just disappeared, and he's off doing whatever. I'm not really 100% sure anymore.
But you kept going?
Yeah, I kept going. But it started with him, and then a couple of other friends were like, we're going to do urban rappelling. And wherever we do urban rappelling, we're going to put a spray paint tag there. And I'd already been a big fan of, those guys like Shepard Fairey, Banksy, Space Invader.
Yeah.
That whole crew of like
it was
up and coming,
the street artists that
Yeah.
were already coming. Like, I feel like that entire wave of street art kind of like started coming in like mid 2000s.
Yeah, I was gonna say like early aughts.
Yeah.
Early to mid aughts.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were gonna start doing that, and I was like, I'm terrified of heights. I'm not rappelling from shit, but I'll help you design stencils because I think they're fun, and I like that idea of the repetitive nature of items showing up in urban environments and like documenting
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. I mean, that's what a podcast is. It's all about documentation, really.
Yeah. The thing I like about street art or any kind of art that is kind of in public spaces is that, like, with certain galleries, it's just so white wall and very intimidating to go in.
Yes.
And, like, the art could be amazing. I really would love to go in, but I feel so intimidated because I feel like it's that highbrow art, very high class. And when putting it on the streets for everyone, I can go see it. And, I remember when I was young, I would sit, it's called bench, but I would bench and watch freaking trains go by and just see all the different types of graffiti artists from all around the world. Cause
that's how it started.
Yeah.
Really.
I liked it. But so you're still doing stencils still?
Yeah, and it's all stencils.
All stencils. Now,
see, back to what you were saying though, like the beauty that I had with stencil art was that you could also inject humor into it.
Yeah.
Which I'm a big comedy, big stand-up kind of fan. So my stencils were like 60s Batman and Robin doing like the rappelling down a building. Yeah. And I would put it on like a stair, like a step.
Yeah.
So you'd have a miniature Batman and Robin
going down.
Yeah. Or he designed a Have You Seen This Wizard from Harry Potter that we would slap around town.
I think my earliest one I saw of yours that you pointed out was the Pip-Boy.
Oh yeah, we did a Pip-Boy. We did the very first one I ever did was a Snake Plissken. I did a Wyatt Earp that said "fuck the police," and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Art is too serious sometimes, and it's fun to inject humor into it. It's kind of disarming, and that's a good thing. Art's very intimidating.
It is, but it's also very relieving and mental state.
Yeah. No, you can tell when you're looking at something. You're like, there's a lot of anger, or people are working through some stuff here.
Yeah. Yes. It's good to sometimes put it on the canvas too.
I mean, look at like Jackson Pollock's stuff. Like that dude.
Oh, it was amazing.
Oh, he was working through some stuff.
Yeah. Pretty much. So you're still doing. So throughout the 6 years, you were doing it on the streets.
It was really just the first year we were doing street
with this
art.
group. And then
like winter came and it was cold out and I was like, screw that. And I work at a secondhand bookstore and we get all kinds of garbage coming through there that we can't sell, and people are just like, I don't want it back, just get rid of it. Yeah. So I started taking like old books, pieces of wood. You would say, why is wood coming into a bookstore? I don't know, man. People are bringing in like crates and stuff, and you smash the crates open, and just use like pieces of the wood from the crates, sand it down, put art on it, or vinyl records, sleeves.
So you try to find any kind of supplies you had.
Yeah, anything can be a canvas when it's spray paint. Really, with any art, for the most part, anything's a canvas.
You were making art with whatever you could get.
Yeah, which is still what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
I primarily do pieces currently on vinyl records or wood or plexiglass. And I started doing conventions.
That's where I was going to go is
after that first year.
Yeah, so like was there a point where you were like, I need to make money? Or was it kind of like, I just want to try this out and see what it's like?
Kinda. It was like I had just a milk crate full of these vinyl records that I was just doing like kind of rudimentary, simple 2-layer designs, a white and a black, and then the backgrounds were typically like splatter or gradients.
Yeah. Nothing
complex or anything. But I was designing like kind of original stuff. It wasn't just like, here's a Bill Murray or a simple 2-layer Snake Plissken. It was kind of like I was doing mashups. So I took my favorite one that I did that I should recreate at some point was I took the astronaut from 2001: Space Odyssey, and I put these like giant Leonardo da Vinci style wings on him, and then I did like a spacescape behind them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's one of my favorite like 2 layers that I did. But I did a whole bunch of all these simple 2 layers, and I was invited to go to one of the bookstore that I work at. It's a chain, and they just had a space, and they were like, "We're doing an event. You want to come set up stuff? I know you got all that extra stuff. Try and sell some of it."
Yeah. So
I went down there, didn't sell a single piece. No, I sold one to an employee at the bookstore.
Really?
It was cheap. I think I was selling them at like $10, something like that.
Yeah.
And as we were packing up to leave after being there for probably like 5 hours, I think it was Billy from Indiana Toy and Comic Expo.
Okay.
Approached me as I was packing up, and he was like, "Dude, I'm doing this convention. Where was that at? It was on the north side of Indianapolis.
Like in Weston or something.
Yeah, it was on the north side of Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Dude, I'm doing this convention. It's our first year. I like your stuff. You want to try it out? I'll shoot you an email." So he sent me an email, and the tables were super cheap. They still are super cheap, which is one of the greatest things about that show is he's getting constant people coming to that thing.
Yeah.
And it's super cheap to set up and get in. And I'm kind of indebted to that dude for getting me started in the convention scene.
How long ago was that? 4 years.
Yeah, it was like 4 years. So I've been doing cons for 4 years.
And it seems like...
In the first show, gangbusters. I made so much money.
Really?
On that first show. Which was great, but then it made me think like, oh dude, every show I'm gonna make like...
Yes!
Near $1,000.
Yeah. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna quit the job.
That's not how it is.
And do it full time.
No, but that was a great, because it was the first show, so they didn't know how many people were gonna show up, what the attendance was gonna be like, and it was in such a tiny space.
Oh, I remember. I went.
Dude, I had to stand on chairs to talk to people. Like that's how crazy it was. I was like an auctioneer. Yeah. It was insane.
That's awesome.
And then we went back to the friend's apartment, started counting the money, and we're like, Jesus Christ.
This is awesome.
Let's start doing more.
So, on average, how many do you still do them? How many do you do a year?
A year?
Yeah.
How
many are you doing this year?
I do like 2 a month.
2 a month.
Yeah, close to it. It depends on the size of the show and like if it's out of state.
And you used to just do around the Midwest, and now like when we talk, you're branching out. You're going to like Baltimore.
I went to New Orleans earlier this year.
Yeah.
Going to Baltimore. 2 weeks. I'm going to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah.
We did that Detroit.
Yeah, Motor City.
Novi show.
So you're starting to move.
I mean, Airbnb makes it so cheap and easy to do.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Now, comparing from back then, 5 years ago, I mean, your style has developed.
Yeah.
You're starting to try new mediums too.
Yeah, and every other year I take like a similar subject matter, and like I'll find an alternate kind of picture or angle of that subject matter, and I'll just redo it to see kind of where I'm at and how it's starting to look. Like every year I was doing like a new Harley Quinn piece. So I started out, I did like a single layer Bruce Timm style from the animated series. The next year I did a 3-layer white, black, red from the animated series again. The year after that I did like an Adam Hughes kind of one. I don't remember how many layers it was, but it had like blue highlights for her like latex costume.
Yeah.
And then the current one that I've got, which is a pretty good seller of my prints.
That's the one I know.
That's like a 10-layer, and it's got multiple yellows for her hair, so she's not wearing the cowl. Yeah, I like to take one subject and keep doing it a little bit just to chart my progress and see where I'm at.
So from doing like 1 or 2 layers to now you're almost going like 8 to 10.
I've got that Rocky Horror piece that I've got is 20.
20 layers.
20. Cursory glance, it looks like it's maybe like 7.
With all the fine details.
Yeah, but there's like overlapping of like the same color. Yeah.
And then even like your surfaces, like I've seen that develop. Like you were doing on anything you got, then on vinyl, which is probably, I would say, as I use the word, your bread and butter.
Yeah, it's what I do most.
Yeah, it's a lot of vinyl, but now I see you doing it on some canvases, maybe some plexiglass, your wood, yeah, and not even
that portrait style is much easier to make prints of than a circle.
Yeah,
which is why I'm starting to do more portrait style.
Yeah, and like I mean, even we'll get to it sometime down the road, but like when I had some of your work in my old gallery, I mean, it was. I remember the one I remember the most was the Fallout one, where you used actual fencing, and then you had a contour cut.
Yeah.
Of the subject matter, and then it was raised above it, so it was floating over the fence.
Well, that was like my first time being in a group show, so I had to.
And it's so.
I had to put a lot of work into it to stand out.
Yeah.
Because there's that thing in the back of your mind as an artist where people are giving you money to do something you love, so you think you're a fraud. Like, people are going to catch you at some point. So if it's something big like that, I'm like, fuck, I gotta show up to this thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to screw it up.
And then the next show you did was that Mars Attacks piece.
Yeah.
Which I loved. It was a contour cut of one of the aliens, but then, like, the world that he was holding was a vinyl.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you're mixing these different mediums now, and you're, like, saying, like, okay, here's what I know is stenciling and cutting and spray painting, and here's some new mediums, surfaces and stuff, and now you're kind of mixing it in together and creating a whole new composition.
Yeah, I mean, you got to stand out at cons, and the more shows I go to, the more I see spray paint people doing the thing. So you've got to constantly keep being better and kind of testing your own limits.
Yeah.
Of what you can do. So that's me.
That's you.
I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
What about you, man? I mean, how long have we known each other now? A few years now.
3?
Yeah.
You say 3?
I think so. I mean, we're not dating or anything, so I don't keep that number in the back of my head.
Our anniversary's next week.
Yeah. Yeah, actually it would be. Because we met at Indie Toy and Comic Expo.
Is that what? No.
Yeah.
Is that really how... Is that the first time we met, though?
Formally, yeah. I mean, I'd gone to your gallery.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Some of the shows.
Epion introduced...
us.
Yeah, because I knew him...
Before.
From, when I started doing stencils, because he's my favorite stencil artist. And it's crazy that I know him now.
And we're friends.
Yeah. Yeah, he introduced me to you at Indie Toy and Comic Expo probably 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Yeah. I mean, I'll go brief history, because...
Yeah, because I've already eaten up about 30 minutes of me.
That's fine. That's fine. I
don't even think I know your secret origins.
My secret origins? Well, that's good. Not many people will, which is probably the way I want to keep it. But I will say I went to an art school, and I went to do comic books. Like, I wanted to draw an ink comic. And I went for the program, and I totally hated it. I did not feel welcome. I did not like it. It was I just didn't feel like there was a structure to it. I'm a guy who likes structure. And so...
Yeah, they can't see the massive email of talking points you sent me. Yeah.
Scene 1, Act 1, Scene 2. Yeah. So,
I mean, that's a good thing, though.
Yeah, so I switched my major to illustration. And there was going to it, there was this talk at my school hosted, and it was all these illustrators and sequential artists, comic book artists, that do web comics, independent comics, self-publishing, and they all talked. And this illustrator was up there, and he made a big circle. And then he made a Huh?
Do you remember the guy? Are we allowed to talk about the guy?
I don't remember the guy's name.
You don't remember the guy's name?
No, I don't remember.
That's too bad.
And he made a dot and a big circle. So he made a dot and a circle. And he says this dot is the opportunities that sequential artists who want to get into comic books. And then this big circle that was huge around it, he said this is the opportunity that illustrators can get a job.
Yeah.
And he said you have to almost be as good or better than what the people are in the industry to get into the big houses. Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse. And I was really gung-ho on superheroes. Like, that's what I wanted to do. And then I kind of had that realization, like, well, I'm not that good. So I need to go to illustration.
It takes a lot of hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of hours on that drawing board. Like, 12 a day, just keep drawing. And that was the thing, was like, they even had editors come to that school before and like talk about how you could improve, because
from the big three.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, Dark Horse.
Okay.
And they were like, I would always draw figures and faces and close up of faces and figures and action poses, but they're like, dude, you got to draw backgrounds and cities and streets and cars and interior, like not even thinking of it, interiors of houses and like
can you pull a lamp out of your ass right now?
No. So I kind of had that realization, so I moved to illustration, where then I could be more conceptual and mess with different mediums, and I was really into that. And so I graduated with an illustration degree, and I thought I was the absolute shit.
Yeah.
And there was a couple weeks before we graduated, I went to New York, and I had my portfolio, and I went to all these different magazines because I wanted to do editorial. And I went to all these magazines, and like literally old school, like 1950s, knocked on art directors' doors.
Yeah.
And try to get my portfolio out there, sending emails like, I'll be around, if you have time or a coffee break or whatnot, could you please just look at my portfolio? And weirdly, I had a couple yeses.
Yeah?
Yeah. A lot of no. I mean, it's cold calls. Cold calls are just not good. A lot of like art directors hate cold calls. So then, like, I'll always remember this. I went to Rolling Stone magazine, and I'll remember his name forever. And his name was Steve Charney, and he was the art director, design director at Rolling Stone at that time. And I show him my portfolio, and he goes, you got some good stuff, but illustration, everyone's competing for a job. The one thing he said to me was kind of funny, because he looked at some of my stuff, and it was funny. It was like, I did the illustration, but then I did the illustration like mocked up in a magazine, or kind of like with text and headline treatment or whatnot,
to see how it looks like cropped,
to see how it looked like published, and like almost. Yeah. And he's like, you would work good working in publication too. Yeah. Like, if you want to get an illustration, if you want to do illustrations, you should work for a magazine and do illustrations for the magazine. Then I literally went home with no jobs.
Did you say to him, well, you have a magazine?
No, I didn't. But he did show me some original Ralph Steadmans. Oh,
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And so, which were in like this meeting room where he did the portfolio review. But I think I was there for about a week, and pretty much came home empty-handed. Graduated, went back to where I'm from, and no job, and a portfolio. So I was trying to like keep myself busy.
Yeah.
And
same thing.
Yeah, just keep myself busy and out of trouble too.
Yeah.
And I went to this art fair, and there was this dude that I have 2 of his pieces in my house, and he was a stencil artist. And his name was Mark Tuckerberg, I believe, and I really liked his stencil work. So then I was like, shit, I loved street art, and I loved graffiti, and I did some stuff when I was in high school and a little bit in college, and I loved wheat pasting. And then
I've never wheat pasted.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
And so then like I was just like, I'm just gonna start cutting some stencils. So I started cutting some stencils, and I realized I probably didn't have. I really liked designing the stencils, but I didn't really like cutting and spraying.
Yeah.
And
it hurts your hands after a while.
Yeah, and like, again, I'm pretty precise.
Yeah.
And I like things in a chaotic order, but still there's some order to it. And stenciling, the overspray would piss me off.
Controlled chaos.
Yeah, controlled chaos.
Yeah.
So I was looking through, and I was like, I want a silkscreen. Like, that was something I was really interested in doing. And I messed with silkscreening beforehand Horribly failed, most of them. And basically what happened was I found this, this is horrible, I'll make it real short, but I found there was this print studio where I'm from, and it was just ran by this lady who was amazing and too trustworthy. And I go in there and I'm like, I want a silkscreen. And she's like, do you know how to? Yeah, I know how to.
Well, that's the artist thing, right?
Yeah.
If anyone asks you if you can do it, you just say you can,
yeah,
and then figure it out later.
So yeah. So she's like, fine, and she gave me a key to her personal studio, and I would pay like a fee, and I was messing around with silkscreening, and so I'd like basically watch YouTube videos and kind of read articles and forums, a lot of forums, because that was back in the day when like YouTube was just kind of coming out.
Yeah.
And I'd read a lot of forums and how to do stuff, and I literally DIY'd it all the way for a while. And then I started like just silkscreening and layering and doing all these layers to the point where, and then like learning about image transferring, and just kind of started coming up with this layering transfers and then silkscreening on the final image on wood. And it's kind of funny, it's right over there.
Yeah.
That's my first one.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, okay, this is kind of cool. I like this. But then there was a point where I was like, yeah, I'm dead broke. And I have no money. I have no job. I have nothing. And I just keep messing around in this garage, all this work. So then I found this little organization that would host art shows and put shows together. And I was like, this is awesome. And I talked to her and I showed my work. And she's like, yes, we love your work. Please join us and stuff. It was like a grandma watercolor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know? And I totally realized it right off the bat. But was like, they're putting shows together.
Yeah.
So you got like freaking Teresa with this like potted plant of watercolors, which was nicely done, next to my Rocky Balboa with the Ultimate Warrior mask.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I've seen that one.
And so I did my first show. And I remember exactly where it was. I was at a baseball game. And I get a call. And they're like, yeah, you sold your work. And I'm like, what?
Were you like, which one?
No, I was just like, what? Like, someone bought it? And they're like, yeah, actually you sold a couple. Because I put a couple up. And I was like, wow, I made money? And so then, like, it was that point where I was like, not only do I like it, but maybe some people like it. You know, and not only will they like it, but they'll fish out money for it.
Yeah.
And so I just started making work, and I went to that print studio again, and I was like, I'd like to come here often, like a lot,
and just let me live here.
Basically, it was. So I'd go on the weekends. I found a part-time job, worked on the weekdays, went on the weekends, and printed. But I mean, again, it was DIY printing. It was not the best practices.
Still wood? Were you doing paper?
Oh, it was just wood. Only wood. So that was the funny thing. Going to a lumber yard and buying sheets of wood and asking them to cut it, and then going to, Kinko's to get transparencies printed, and then ordering screens, and like at first I didn't even know how to emulsion a silk screen. So I'd buy them pre-emulsioned and then expose them. And then I was so afraid, because I didn't know how to emulsion it properly. I was so afraid. I left that screen as is and would never strip it and reuse it.
Just get another screen?
Just get another screen.
How many screens did you have after like,
that,
cranking them out?
When I did it, when I was doing it back home, I was there for about a year. I think I had about 20 to 25 screens.
That's crazy.
And with all burnt images in it and stuff. Then I started doing a couple like little local shows, coffee shops. It was kind of funny because there's like this street where it's supposed to be the arts district, and there was an art store, and there was a cool art gallery down the road, and it was called Beaux-Arts Art, and that was like, it was run by graffiti artists, and it was super cool. There's a couple coffee shops and little things.
Good spray paint selection in there?
In the art store? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Montana's?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hardcore 94s. Yeah. 95. Was it 94 or 95?
94.
94.
Yeah.
I think they had the Germans and the Mexicans. And
yeah.
all different types of caps. Yeah. I love that art store. They were always awesome in it. And down that strip, I think in like 6 months, I showed at every place. New work.
Yeah.
I just kept cranking it to the point where then I actually got a job and I moved here. And that's when in like 1 month, I got a show, like randomly. It was the weirdest thing happened. I went to a show. I actually had like confidence for the first time in a long time. And
Sure.
I went up to him and I said, I make art. And the guy's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. And I was talking to a bunch of people. I got my first show here at the Upland Propaganda Room in the Murphy Art Center.
Oh, yeah.
And I did a show there. And then they introduced me to this guy named Mike Graves. And that was just history. Like, he got me a studio here in the Murphy Art Center. And then he was hanging my work up at restaurants around Indianapolis. And in that year, my first year there, I don't think I ever held any of my artwork. It was always somewhere, which was really great.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it was selling, too.
Yeah.
And so, but the funny thing was, when I was selling, I had to make more. So I'd travel back home.
Yeah.
And go back to that print studio and make more stuff. And then go to get wood, get art supplies, go to the print shop, print it in a weekend, and then hustle 10 more paintings. And I do it like every other month.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there was no resources. And
home was it's like a 2-hour,
3.5,
3-hour drive. Yeah. So that's a lot of travel.
So then Mike got me the studio in the Murphy Art Center, and I was making work there more often, and then started DIYing a print shop in there.
Yeah. And
it was funny because when I got the studio, they were like, okay, here's rent. And they were like, can you afford it? And I was like, yeah, I can. I couldn't.
Didn't even look at the number.
No.
Yeah.
And then I gotta sell paintings, I gotta hustle hard, and I also need to turn this into a gallery space. And that's when I created the Attic. And the Attic was showcasing 3 artists every first Friday. And as you know, in that Murphy Art Center on first Friday back then, it was the spot to see art.
Yeah, it was like there in the Harrison.
Yeah.
That's it.
But for us, it was like the more street art, more just contemporary, like really crazy art,
When I started getting where I thought I was really good in the convention scene, I started being like, I want to try and do a gallery. If I can get into a gallery, which I ended up getting into one, it was the Art Bank, which was pretty much just you show up, you sign your contract, and you're expected to, you pay rent, they didn't take a cut, and you just, whatever you make is yours.
Yeah.
So I got into there. It's good. It looks great on paper starting out, but I didn't really sell anything there. And then I was like, okay, that's a bit of a wash. First time out. I was only there for like 3 months or something. But then I was like, I want to be in the Murphy because it's the place to be.
It was.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Every room was open. It was either a music venue, an artist studio, or a gallery.
And you were like shoulder to shoulder sometimes.
Always.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then, so my whole business plan was I show 3 artists, they pay a flat fee, and then anything that sells, a very low commission, so it would pay the taxes and any kind of fee that for credit card swipers or anything.
Yeah.
And I would also have print racks where my work would be in, so I could make my own money. And I did it.
You weren't up on the walls. You were just...
Nope, just in the racks.
Just in the racks, yeah.
And I did that in the
small space.
In the small space for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I can truly say that I think maybe 4 or 5 months I actually had to pay out of pocket every time it paid my money.
Crazy.
And it paid my rent. And so it was good. And it was weird. I started getting emails from people like, hey, you looking for artists? And that was kind of weird. So I made a website and I did that kind of stuff, and that was the cool thing was I started meeting all these artists, and I wasn't I could say I'm a curator, but at the same time I was more of a guy with a good space to show work that was kind of became a friend. Everyone I showed, I loved your work, and I'm a fan of your work, and I'm still friends to them this day. Everybody, almost I would say 80% of the artists I still talk to this day, and It
was like you were building a community.
Yeah, it was. And then I got, I started to, I needed a bigger space because this thing was only 300 square feet. It was a square, perfect square. And I needed more space. I wanted more walls. I wanted more artists. I wanted more racks. Bigger. I wanted more everything. Yeah. And I talked to one of the companies that was in the Murphy Arts Center, Do 317, and I actually did some freelance work for them beforehand. And I came up with something with them where they had this storage space on the second floor. I was on the third. It was called the attic for a reason. Yeah. But the second floor was kind of the main drag. And I was like, I want more people. We did get lots of people, but I wanted more. I wanted more of everything. And I came up with a business plan with them. I said, hey, this was your guys' lounge back in the day. You have your liquor license still there. You guys can serve beer, make it 21 up, serve beer there, as long as I can put work on the walls. And it became the Do 317 Lounge and Gallery. And that just exploded. That really, our first show was Jason Rowland, who's a very well-known artist in the Midwest.
Yeah, he's great.
Aaron Scamhorn,
also great.
Also great.
And he and I have a weird history, and it's a good history.
And Corey Ziegler.
Oh yeah,
I love his silk screening.
Yeah.
So that was
all three people you still talk to.
Yeah.
To this day.
And maybe here. And so we did that show, and it was nuts. I remember we had the click counter, and our clicks were like 1,200 people. Mm-hmm. And I remember our sales.
What was the square footage there again?
This was 900.
900.
So triple the amount.
Yeah.
And we had I didn't make anything off the bar. I just wanted to do this gallery. And so they gave me a key. I could set up a couple days ahead of time, clean it up, and did it for exactly a year there. And then after that, I got moved down to the second floor. I got a studio on the second floor because someone left.
Yeah.
And it was shared. It was 3 art studios and then a main room. It's like a quad almost.
Yeah.
And I shared it with a nonprofit called Primary Colors. And we switched off every other month for gallery shows.
Yeah.
And I did some group shows, which you were in. You were also in the Do 317 Lounge. You did well.
Yeah.
And
it was a winter show. It was like December or something.
Yeah, you were in December.
Yeah.
And that was a crazy.
Which is weird because I don't do conventions in the winter just because I don't want to deal with the hassle of driving.
Yeah.
And I expect people to not really be wanting to drive either or go out and spend money. But December was great.
That thing was like all the shows. I feel like except maybe 1 or 2 out of the 12 shows that year at the lounge. I know we had over 100 people walk in.
Yeah.
And I know every artist I put up sold something.
Yeah.
We did fantastic. I know people who've done galleries, and even myself personally, well-recognized, established galleries, who don't even get those numbers or those sales. And
it's I don't want to call it a fluke, but it's crazy.
It was a fluke.
Those numbers.
I liked it because it was kind of like, I wanted to make my own gallery. It was a DIY pop-up. It was very punk rock. We just put stuff up. I made tags, made lists, made posters. We'd stick them around the neighborhoods.
And the cool thing about that was like you had 2 artists each putting their stuff up on the walls, and you give them a ton of posters, and you've got your own street team.
Yeah,
almost.
It was self-marketing.
Yeah,
and working with Do 317 gave us free marketing too.
Yeah.
And so they would promote it. I made web banners for them. It was really fun. And when I got the Primary Colors Gallery, I had that brand that, I learned from my lessons on what to do, what not to do. And I only knew, I only had 3 shows. And I was like, I got to make these shows huge.
They were events.
Yeah. They were group shows.
Yeah.
And that, this is like a little group show. We were 25 artists plus some kind of activity or event within the gallery. So there was that one, the One Up, which is probably my favorite still to this day.
That was great, man.
20 artists that did video games. We brought in pinball games and vintage arcade games to play, see the art. We sold half the work. And that's where your dog meat from Fallout was in.
Yeah.
And then also
because I helped you hang.
Yeah, you helped me. Dude, you helped.
Yeah.
Well, that's shit, man.
But there was a ton of stuff, man.
Yeah, well, during that time, you helped me with Do 317 Lounge. After it was kind of funny because after I met you, then like 3 months later, I think I emailed you like, "Hey, you want a show?"
Someone canceled.
Yeah, someone canceled. I was like, "Hey, you want a show?" And then you're like, "Yeah," and you did well. And then
it helps that I do a con a month, so I've always got like a milk crate full of work to put up.
And then I remember I was like, "Hey, you're pretty cool." And then like we started hanging out, and then it was like, "Hey, I'm starting to run 2 galleries at once," which was the Do 317 Lounge and Primary Colors. And I was like, I'm overworked because I'm spending, I know I would spend probably 5 to 10 hours a week promoting, doing something with this gallery.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I have anxiety. I know that.
Yeah.
That where I was like, I can't be at these showings anymore. I would buckle. I'd get stressed. I'd get moody. As you're previous in the bookstore, you know how to work a register. You know how to talk to people.
Well, it's easy because it seems like you do conventions, you do art fairs. Everybody uses Square.
Yeah. So
that interface is universal. I could do that in my sleep. Yeah.
So you started helping me with the lounge, and I would do Primary, and then after Primary, then I kind of, some stuff went down, and I kind of packed up the galleries and said, no more.
Yeah.
I'm done. I've overworked myself beyond belief. I also didn't make much work in that 2 years.
You were showing other people's stuff.
Yeah, and those 2-3 years.
Not showing yours.
No. And I said, I'm going to start working on my stuff. I found a print shop around here. I learned the best practices, and now I've been making my work. And it's all large format paintings, and it's multiple layers on canvas, multiple silk screens on canvas. Throughout those years, I would dabble. That was the funny thing. I was like, I can look back, and my time here has been 4 years or 5 years, and I'd make like 10 paintings a year. And now I'm making, I could say probably double, triple the amount of paintings in a print every week.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you're booked for like a gallery space, you make an entire series, which is like 10 paintings.
More than that. My last show, Side Jobs, was 25.
Yeah. So you're taking your normal average and you're doing that for a month.
Yeah.
Your yearly average is now a month's average.
Yeah. So I've done art fairs, I've done conventions, I've done galleries. I've shown in Ann Arbor, Toledo, Ohio, Columbus, Indianapolis, Chicago, Louisville. So, I've shown around the Midwest. I've done all different sorts. I've learned so many different lessons. And I think,
so many venues, too. I mean, not just art fairs, but like coffee shops.
Yeah, everywhere.
Restaurants.
Yeah, so, I think this podcast is going to be pretty fun, too. I got some history. I got some experience to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been on both sides, curation. Now I'm just an artist, and I'm focusing on that now. So I'm super stoked to see what's gonna come.
Me too. So we've been doing this a while.
Yeah, we've got some experience. I mean, some goods and bads.
Don't they say after a year it's a career?
I think it was when you go broke, it's a career.
Yeah, something like that.
When you start spending more on your supplies than making money.
Right.
But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm more focusing on the art now, I'm really excited for.
Yeah, which is interesting because I'm starting to get into where you were.
You flipping? You want to be a curator now?
A little bit.
A little bit.
I got a taste, and
you got your LLC. So, you're looking at commercial spaces.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna say a little bit in the sense of I crunched numbers, and I don't think I can actually make the money to get the gallery, just a pure gallery, white walls, put your stuff up, we'll make money together kind of thing. So I'm looking at doing a coffee shop / gallery at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, I'm looking to do the curation bit now too. And that's mostly just because I'm tired of working retail. And
see, I was tired of
and I feel like
other people's work. I wanted to hustle more of mine.
You handed me just a gold mine of all these people that you've shown before.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, I know this. 3 years I did gallery work. I showed over 72 artists. I did over 35 plus shows. And I mean, I don't regret anything. I enjoyed it so much, but it took so much out of me. Put it together. I mean, every time it was a pop-up shop, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is definitely the benefit of just getting a storefront.
Yeah.
You don't have to build it up and break it down every first Friday.
Oh my God, I remember that.
It was a pain, dude.
It was a pain. You know, and then, you know, again, that took so much time out of my art. So I was like, I want to focus on my art. And for me, at least, I think it was the right decision to kind of hit the reset button and really focus on what I'm here for. I know I'm here to make art. So here I am making art. That's me.
Yeah. We've had a very similar path.
Yeah. I mean, like, I can't believe it's been 3 years we've met each other, you know?
We've gotten a lot of work done in 3 years.
Yeah. From doing conventions together, you know, sharing tables and just being at the convention, to helping me with the gallery work, breaking down stuff for each other.
Yeah.
You know, and now kind of, you know, doing some silkscreen stuff together too. Yeah. And now a podcast.
Well, I've got this thing where, like, I don't have family, so I just friends or family.
Yeah, you always say that.
And if you help me out, I'm indebted, you know. And because I can't get to where I'm at now without getting help to get there. Yeah. And I mean, it's like, you know, there's that group of artists that you and I both talk that are just constant sources of help, inspiration, and
stability.
Stability. Yeah, you get down on yourself.
Oh yeah.
Doing this.
Oh, you know me.
And it's good to have people to lean on.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm always down to help.
And I think this is a good thing for other people that we might not know that will listen to the podcast.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because it'll be coinciding with me trying to get a gallery up and running.
Yeah.
So it'll be cool to see all the angles.
The journey through it.
Yeah.
All right, so with this podcast, it's always a two-part. There's us talking and then leading up to an interview on the next part. So in this part, we've created this little section called Around the Table.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stuff that we really enjoy, that we've seen in the past weeks or something. It could be artists, marketing, branding, movies, games. This is kind of like the general chat. So I'll just kick it off.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. One artist that really caught my eye recently is this I Am Steelberg. Okay. I showed it to you recently. This guy's taking movies, like VHS cover sleeves, you know, the old
school big boxes.
Yeah. And putting new movies on it, but making it look old. Like you're picking up from like almost like a half-price books or something.
Or like a mom and pop video store.
Yeah. I mean, it has like the old worn tears and stuff. And so I'm digging it. So like he's done this like Logan, which is fantastic, by the way. He's done Stranger Things, Evil Dead, John Wick, The Lobster.
Cool. Yeah.
So, and everything is very like VHS, new retro wave.
Yeah.
Really bringing in, you and me both love that aesthetic.
Yeah. That's a weird thing that's been coming up recently, is this like playing with nostalgia kind of thing.
It sells.
It sells because you're familiar with it. I don't know what it is, but it's really fun. I mean, that's pretty much exactly what Stranger Things was.
Yeah.
100% is just you're touching on all these subjects that you already know and you're familiar with, but like putting a modern twist on it, which is exactly what he's doing, and it works.
I dig him.
Yeah.
If you guys are interested in it, his Instagram name is I Am Steelberg. Check it out. Fantastic stuff. And then my other thing I did was, so as I've developed my silk screening for the past 8 years, I think now. I did my first blend for the first time. I was never interested in doing it until I saw some stuff. Again, this like retro wave, this VHS Rising Sun.
Do you want to explain what a blend is? I don't know.
That's great
because outside of the silkscreen kind of world,
no one knows what the fuck I'm talking about.
Silk screening it's I don't even know how you would describe it really.
Yeah, it's a printmaking process. You're using, frame with mesh on it, where you use a emulsion.
Like super fine
detail.
Mesh.
Yeah, super fine detail. You put this chemical that looks like ooze, something that like...
It's like gack.
Yeah, it really is. Where then you would expose it at a high exposure using lights, and it creates a perfect stencil, just like cutting a stencil.
Yeah.
But it could be almost more detailed, I mean.
Yeah, mine's all analog.
Yeah. Mine's more through a machine.
Yours is digital.
Yeah. Where then you can where you put or place ink through, and then you press it. It does have it is an analog feel though, because you're layering.
Yeah, exactly.
Screens, because it's one color per screen to create an image.
Like I don't know, who are the famous like screen printers? Like Mondo.
Well, let's go old school.
Yeah.
Andy Warhol.
Yeah, Warhol.
Warhol, Rauschenberg.
Lichtenstein, did he do?
No, he was just painting.
He was paint, really.
Yeah. So Robert Rauschenberg is my favorite. I think most of my influence come through him. And then Andy Warhol. Today's day and age, I mean, there's tons. There's so many.
Any of these like independent poster production companies like Mondo.
Yeah.
What was that one you sent me the other day?
Oh, I can't remember.
I can't either.
I can't remember. But, I mean, a lot of people love silkscreen posters these days. It's become so big.
It's got that handmade thing that everybody loves.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants something one of a kind.
Editioned, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to make 25 of these. 25 will only exist. It's going crazy. But a blend is basically taking multiple colors and putting it on one screen and silkscreening it simultaneously until it blends.
The typical silkscreen process is like each color is a layer.
Yep.
So
and each screen.
Yeah.
So you would have to silkscreen your magenta and then get a new screen, process that, silkscreen your yellow. This is where I put yellow, magenta, and cyan in the same tray or in the same screen, and just kept pulling it until the ink started to basically fuse with each other or mix.
Like a gradient.
Yep, and create a gradient. So then the magenta and yellow created orange, and the cyan and magenta created violet or purple, and kind of blended. And it's long process. It takes so many test prints before you actually want to use your good paper, your poster paper. And I did it for the first time. I was never really interested in doing it for a while, and I kind of tried it out, and it turned successful. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it.
Why did you never do it before? Is it just kind of intimidating a little bit?
No, it just wasn't up my alley and my aesthetic.
Yeah.
You know, mine was always just layering screens on top of each other, almost like a massive test print. And you know, again, you and me have both been getting into this like new retro wave aesthetic, and you know, they use a lot of gradients and a lot of like neon and reflective light, and that's really I've been looking at that and listening to that for the past 6 months, and very influenced through that, where it is a lot of blends, and I wanted to try it, so I just tried it, and I'll definitely be doing it again sometime down the road.
It's a lot of like gradients and like framework. Pretty cool.
So
it's a good stark contrast.
It is. So,
I like it.
And then like with that, I've been kind of messing around with like repetitive patterns, like wallpaper patterns almost. And so I think I'm going to be using those two aesthetics in my next series.
Cool.
Don't know really what the concept is going to be, and it's not really for a show. I just want to keep making work.
Exercises.
So I like to like kind of mess with a lot of prints, like small prints first, and kind of experiment with like aesthetic and concepts before I actually go large on canvas. So that's kind of like the stuff I did this week. How about you, Brian?
I mean, when was that last show I did? It was a whirlwind weekend that I had.
Mighty Comics
2 weeks. 2 weeks ago. Because that was a crazy day. Because Friday night poker game. Did my normal poker game that I do.
Poker game.
Yeah, I play poker at a house show. So I had to stay up for that, because you got to make that scratch, man. And then Saturday, it was the MightyCon show, which is this group that they've got their own comic shop up in the Chicago area. I think it's called Mighty Comics or something. Geek Inc. Comics, maybe, is the name of their website. But they do these staggered shows, these staggered, really small conventions that are just one day. So they do one in Madison, Wisconsin, one in Milwaukee, and the other in a suburb of Chicago, DuPage. And then they've started doing St. Louis. So they do these like one-day shows that are like just back issues. Some artists, not a ton. It's a really tiny artist alley, but they're super cheap. They're super fun. So I did that show, and it was kind of weird because I'd stayed up all Friday because I did that poker game and I'd worked the day job that day. and then I drove up to Milwaukee. And everything's kind of a blur, really.
So with the Mighty Con,
yeah, but I've done a good amount of them. They're great to pad your schedule with because they're 1-day shows. You can get in and out. Yeah.
So this one was in Milwaukee, correct?
Yes.
And how was it?
It was okay. The Milwaukee show, I get some of them confused up there because they do 3 different shows up in that area.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the venues a little screwed up in my head. But I think that this one was at a different venue than the previous time I'd been there. This was at the county fairground.
Indoors or out?
Indoors. I pretty much only do indoors because I don't have a tent.
Yeah.
And that's just a pain in the ass.
See, I'm the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
I do all outdoor shows now.
The attendance was up from previous times I'd been there, but like sales were down. And I don't think it was just me because I talked to some of the vendors. It was like across the board, and it was just because it was at the fairgrounds and they were doing like a little county fair kind of thing, which brought in people that weren't necessarily intending to come to the show. They were just like, cool, let's go check it out.
Walk in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And tickets were super cheap to get in, so I mean, I don't blame anybody, and I was so just whacked out of my mind from the lack of sleep that I kind of was just like, I want to get out of here and go home and go to bed.
So when's your next one?
The next one currently, as of this date, is in 2 weeks. By the time people listen to this, I'll have already gone to it. But that's in Raleigh, North Carolina. Raleigh SuperCon, I think is the name of it. And it looks really big. And I'm kind of nervous about it, actually.
Are you making work?
Yeah, I've got some stuff. I haven't made a ton of stuff, but I've got stuff left over.
You got a lot of backlog.
Yeah, I've got a lot of backlog. But I'm doing like a Wonder Woman piece. I'm probably going to get this Elvira piece done.
Mm-hmm.
The Wonder Woman's just on vinyl. The Elvira is going to be a plexiglass piece. I'm starting to do this like series of pinup models.
Yeah.
Because I love those old like Gil Elfgren 50s pinup magazines. They're super fun, and they're like really pulpy and like trash.
That's a great way to explain your work. It's really trash.
I mean, art isn't necessarily necessary.
Yeah.
Nobody needs it, but you do.
So, kind of going off of this Mighty Con.
Yeah.
And to spoiler alert, our next episode will be interviewing 2 awesome friends and artists, Epion 5 and Katrina. They both are convention artists.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I met both of them.
Yeah.
Was at.
So, these 2 artists, they're convention artists, but not only are they convention artists, they're full-time. Like, they
don't have a day job like you and I.
Yeah, they do this.
This is their job.
Yeah, is art, and then going to conventions almost every week.
Do you envy that?
No, because, and I think it'll be a good discussion. The next episode is kind of like the work I have to do and put in every single week. And if you're up for it and you have that mentality for it, then that's something you could pursue. But for me personally, I don't think I'm up for that.
In my heart, I want to do that.
Yeah.
But I know I couldn't do it. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, and I can't wait to hear their point of view on that. But there are, and we'll go more in depth next episode, is that there are some really good artists at conventions.
Yeah. I constantly am, running into creative people that are just like, I don't know how to get into it. I don't know how you do it. It's like, just buy a table at a convention and put your stuff up.
Yeah.
And same goes to people that are like, you're getting a new house and they're like, we need new art. We need stuff on the walls. And go to a convention.
Yeah. I mean, it's not all like...
Go to an art fair.
Yeah.
Don't go to you can go to a gallery, but like, you're going to find a lot of stuff at conventions. And I don't think people necessarily think of going to cons for art.
It's not always superhero stuff.
No.
That's what I really like now. But like, it's pop culture, but it's not all just superhero stuff. And one thing when I did some conventions was there are some really good business people, but also there's other ones like good marketing brands and like people doing packaging and people how they present themselves and how they the brand is not just on the paper, but it's on all the collateral, it's on the website, it's on the display, it's everywhere. It's who they are and what they do. And I can't wait to talk about that because I feel like they do it very well. I think that they have some good insight for anybody that's interested in doing comic book, pop culture, horror conventions like themselves.
Or just art in general.
Yeah.
And trying to get it going. I mean, I think that's kind of the general thesis of the show is how do you do that?
Yeah.
And
what does it take?
Yeah, because, I mean, you've done it. You've seen conventions, because every convention, you kind of run into the same people.
Yeah.
At every show, especially in the Midwest. There's a set amount of cons, and we all kind of go to the same ones to show work. So you run into those people, and then there's times where you see someone, and then you don't see them ever again at a show.
Yeah.
And you saw their table, like it was just kind of hastily put together. And I think there's a stigma to a convention where I think people think that you can just get a table and throw it together. There's
it's a
marketing.
Yeah, it's a thought process. It really is a process.
You're setting up a business to do it.
That's your storefront. I will be honest, I couldn't do it. That's why I stopped doing conventions.
You could do it. You could do it, and you did do it.
I did do it for some time, and I had some really good conventions.
Yeah.
And then I had some very low conventions.
I think if you went back out there, I think you could do it.
Yeah, my stuff is just, I don't think it's very pop culture anymore. It's more conceptual. But, it's right up your guys' alley.
Cons are stressful. That's really what it is.
It is. It takes a lot out of you.
Yeah.
And especially how you not only have to be at the conventions and work those weekends, but then you have to come back and make more work and stock up your inventory and find out, get in that mindset of going back out and, setting up that storefront.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. And we're going to talk about all different types of convention artists, the convention life, talk about, how to start it too. Because, I'd love to hear his first convention, my first convention, yours. I'd love to hear all our first convention experiences, the good ones, the bad ones. It's going to be a great episode, Brian.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that wraps up episode 1.
That's it? We did it?
Yeah, I think we did it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's like we just did our talk that we normally talk about.
Yeah.
You feel good?
I feel good. I feel good.
Okay.
Well, that wraps it up. I'm Jake Lee.
Brian Aerosol.
We'll see you next time.
We say your name every time?
Maybe.
That's marketing, dude.
That is marketing.
Okay.
For any questions and inquiries, please check aobpodcast.wordpress.com. And if you like the show and want to ask us a question or two, please do that at aobpodcast@gmail.com. That's aobpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.